Hey everybody, good morning. We've got Gilberto Arosemena, a good friend and colleague. Gilberto, golly, I mean, we've probably known each other, what, 10 years? Por
Something
ahí?
like that. Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, Gilberto, thank you so much for joining. We're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
So Gilberto is with Pat Moreno Asvat, which is one of the larger and more respected attorney firms here in Panama. He's based in Costa del Este. Just became partner, I guess
Two
not
years
just
ago.
2 years ago. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Fantastic, man. Congratulations on that. So we've got Gilberto. I usually try to do this every Friday and people will be asking questions, but I've got some questions for you based on your expertise in law. And also, the cool thing about Gilberto is regardless of the administration, 10 years, it's been actually 3 different administrations that I've known him through. He's always kind of an inside guy. I mean, he knows everybody. We go to a restaurant and people are coming up to our table and shaking hands.
You're gonna get me in trouble, man.
No, hombre, pero the thing is that it's regardless of the party, which is cool. So, let's jump into it, Gilberto. I know people will really appreciate your insight. My question to you, first of all, as being a real estate company, we got a lot of people thinking about immigration, some of whom are in the middle of or beginning to start immigration processes. I know your
Mhm.
company does that.
Yeah.
So talk to us about COVID and how that's changed the process, whether it's created delays, whether it's implemented new systems and actually created new efficiencies. What's going on with immigration, man?
Well, first of all, thank you, Kent, and I really appreciate you bringing me on. You've had some pretty good, amazing guests lately, so I'm gonna.
No,
There's a lot
hombre,
of pressure here, so
por
I'll try to
favor.
keep the bar up high. So, really, obviously, when the pandemic started and we went into lockdown, the government offices shut down, including immigration. But they reopened. Well, it's been more than 2 months now since I think it was June 8th.
Mm.
And I mean, obviously, people who are not in Panama can't do anything because we can't file their applications if they're not here because, they can't go in and take your pictures or what have you. But for the people who are here, it's been flowing just fine. So after immigration opened up, we've continued with our applications, and people are going there. They have to wear their face shields, they have to wear their masks, and they walk in and they get their pictures taken, they get their temporary visa cards, or they get their permanent residencies. So you would expect that there could be some delays, but there really hasn't been any delays. It's working pretty well.
Okay, good. And it's always interesting to hear other people on the front line of the immigration conversation. Are you guys seeing any trends on your end in terms of countries like, oh yeah, we're getting a ton of people randomly from Holland or from still the
Wow.
US, Canada?
Sure. Well, we still have the usual suspects. I've been seeing personally in my practice, I've been seeing a lot of Canadians. So, it's interesting that we're still getting a lot of interest from North America. You still have a lot of gringos. I was talking with a guy from Florida, lives in Florida. He's
Hmm.
retiring, so he was asking me what he needed to do, and he's ready to move, and he's been here before, so he already knows what to expect. And I think also we're going to start getting more requests from the United States post elections.
Yeah,
So
regardless of who wins.
regardless of who wins, yeah. So, but really a lot of interest from Canadians. I mean, they're
Hmm.
sick of the cold. They really want to move down here, and I think one of the things that I've been seeing as a reason for people to move here lately, it's been more about the medical care, healthcare here.
Okay,
People are in love with the healthcare. They don't get the same treatment in the United States or in other countries. So
man.
it's pretty neat. And as a Panamanian, it makes me really proud. I mean,
I
we
tell
really
you what,
world class.
I mean, we've had 2 kids, multiple surgeries, overnight experiences, and always go to Hospital Nacional
Yeah.
consistently, and it's impeccable. like all the way from the people who clean the floors, who process the bills, of course, the doctors, the facilities. I mean, like, I am their biggest fan. Institutionally, I've never seen so much consistency in terms
Yeah.
of just people have smiles and anywhere in the world. It's really it makes me proud to see how well they do what they do over at Nacional. So yeah, not surprising, man,
Yeah.
and that's cool. So it sounds like Canadians, then you've said, are citing, of course, weather.
Yeah.
And then also quality and affordability of healthcare. That's great. And guys, if you're just joining us, we've got Gilberto Arosemena from Patton Moreno Asvat. They handle real estate, immigration, mergers and acquisitions. I mean, like, they're a large firm. Gilberto's a partner. We're lucky to have him. So, okay, cool. Immigration sounds like all systems go. Everything's cool. And guys, Austin, Brett, thank you guys for tuning in. Austin, let me grab that question in a second. Thank you. Love the questions. Keep them coming. What about real estate processes? Are you seeing, we're seeing it a little bit in terms of notaries, public registry, even lawyers sort of getting a lot more agile as far as electronic documents and or
For sure.
filing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the
Love
same
it.
thing, with immigration. The registry, it really never really shut down. So we were doing a lot of stuff electronically, which was great, and it worked just fine. It takes a little longer when you do the whole telematica, which is what they call it, that process. And also there were a lot of delays with the notaries. Some of the notaries, they were going twice a week, only in the mornings, stuff like that. So it was a little complicated in the beginning mostly, but now things are pretty much full steam ahead. You did also run into some situations where if you were buying an apartment directly with the developer, some of
Yep.
the developers were obviously in lockdown, as was all of the construction that's finally going to reopen in September. But so that created some delays as well, because you couldn't find a way to get deeds signed. You couldn't get the developers to go to the MEF and pay their transfer taxes and so forth.
Sure.
So that created a lot of delays. So I would just tell the clients, I mean, you can't come down and move in anyway, so just hold your horses, be a little patient. And now you can see that things are moving along just fine. Not just fine, but they're getting there.
They're starting to go again. Yeah. What about force majeure clauses in contracts? I think that's how you say that word, force majeure.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, sometimes they're standard in real estate, but not always. Sometimes there's wording that's equivalent to, but not exactly that. Are you seeing those getting enacted and perhaps either killing deals or both sides not agreeing that this is a force majeure?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. So I would tell you that not so much now, but more towards the beginning of the pandemic, where there was so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
Now you have, obviously, you've got kind of dates or estimates of dates where people are going to be able to get vaccines. And you already have dates of here in Panama now where you're going to be out of lockdown, or different blocks are going to be opening up. So not so much now, but in the beginning there were some situations, and I'm not going to say that with real estate, not really. I didn't see much of that.
Huh.
I think people were already decided that had gone into contracts. But I did see it in two specific scenarios when there were big deals, and not pulling out, but hey, what about putting, maybe amending some language in there that
Sure.
our obligations to start paying aren't going to kick in until the lockdowns are lifted and so forth. So, and in general, I can tell you that people were very sympathetic to those kind of things. So it was okay. It wasn't that bad. And with rentals, though, I did see some situations where, and we're going to have a lot of problems with that, with people who haven't paid, haven't been able to pay.
Yeah.
And And then you're going to have obviously some of the people that are going to say, well, when this is over, I'm still not going to be able to fully recover, so don't expect me to pay. But, that's not the whole spirit of it. You do have very responsible people who have said, listen, I can't pay now, but when this is over, we'll reach an agreement to see how I can pay what's outstanding, and the government has issued legislation. You're going to have about 2 years once people get their jobs back to pay off what they haven't paid in these months.
Right.
So, and people are understanding now. Some of the clients that I've dealt with, what they're doing is the bigger tenants. What they do is they're giving them options to their tenants. The landlords are, and just telling them, listen, I'll give you a discount, and let's reach an agreement where you're going to pay me this much a month, or you're going to pay me this much now, like maybe maintenance fees,
Exactly.
and then forget about the rest. We'll deal with that at another point, or I'll give you a 50% discount, and then you'll pay me that 50% from the following months afterwards.
Sure.
So,
Or even retroactively against the debt. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I
yeah,
think those conversations are happening all over the world right now.
absolutely.
One thing that's surprising, and it's related to some tenants not paying their bills, but man, I mean, and we're going to get to the questions too. Thank you guys. We love questions. Actually, you know what? I'll hold my thought. Let's answer some questions here. So
Sure.
Austin, thank you. Panamanians living in the city inquiring about moving to the interior. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've got some friends checking in from the interior, having just signed 3 to 6 month leases because their schools are going to be online for the foreseeable future, at least to the end of the year. So people are feeling a little bit more location independent. We're seeing that, Austin, more so reflected in rents versus sales. We have had a few beach and mountain sales completed in the last week and a half since we talked about it, or I guess last week, which is good. Way closing deals still. So yeah, that's hopefully that answers your question. I don't know, Gilberto, are you seeing some of your friends moving out to the beach, moving out to the mountains, moving out to Pedicee?
Yeah, you better believe it. I'm very envious of them. I have most of my friends are at the beach and have been there since March. So
Right? Can't be
yeah,
that.
and they're
And they're
having
getting
a
a favor
ball.
for it.
Yeah,
Huh?
they're having a ball. It's too bad I'm a lawyer. I picked the wrong profession, man.
No, hombre, there's a couple lawyers out there, but that's right. Somebody's got to hold down in the city, and the city's starting to get back to life. I look out my window here in Sortis, and yeah, now it's good. Okay, so Lee, hi Lee, down in South Africa. Hope to see you soon. Thank you for popping on. Ricardo, I recognize that last name. So Ricardo, thank you. Good question. Opportunities. I think there are already opportunities across the market: city, beach, mountain, agriculture. We're not seeing a huge market shift yet because some people have low operating costs as far as, I don't have a big mortgage, I've got a low homeowners association, but other people have businesses that need liquidity, owners of hotels, owners of restaurants. So I think the key there is picking where you want to be, getting really familiar with the market, and jumping on a deal when you see one, right? I'm not seeing location specific deals. Probably most stress is going to be in investment properties because the rents have come down. Gilberto, what would you add to that as far as opportunities and what to keep an eye out for?
Listen, that's spot on what you said. You're going to have deals everywhere, and obviously it's going to depend a lot on the investors, because you have investors that like land banking. So they're looking at specific properties. Some like land banking at the beach. Some like city properties where they see some development in the future. You have other investors that only like rental in commercial. You're going to have a lot of commercial. You did before, now you're going to have a lot more. You're going to have a lot of residential opportunities as well. People that are going to have to, give away their properties, which is sad, but it is what it is. And you're also going to see tons of opportunities with businesses.
Yeah.
You're going to have, and there's a whole spectrum of things that you're going to find, because you're going to find people who have run out of funds in order to continue operating. You're going to have people who are going to have to sell away, all of their kitchen appliances from the restaurant. You're going to have people that,
which makes it cheap to get into the market,
yeah,
cheap to start a business because you're going to find a lot.
absolutely,
Good point. Good
absolutely.
point.
And you're also going to have, and this is a little more a psychological thing, you're going to have some people that, after going through this pandemic and losing, at least here in Panama, 5 months of our lives locked in, other than our friends at the beach that we spoke about. But
Right.
you're going to have some people that they simply are going to say, you know what? I've been running my business for 20 years. I've done well. I've got some money in the bank. You know what? I'm done. I'm going to move out to the interior and ride horses like I always dreamed of. And so you're going to have some people just selling off assets and businesses just because they want to. They want to live something else. And another thing is, you're going to have some people that are going to be moving out. Yes, it's true. Unfortunately, you're going to have some people that are going to be moving out for many reasons. They want to go back to their home country. They want to go spend some time with their sick parents, whatever it is. So there's going to be opportunities everywhere. And then you've also going to have some of the sharks, the bigger companies that want to buy out some of the smaller competition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've already been seeing a lot of that. So I've got some clients,
mergers.
they've been telling me, hey, watch out. Let me know when you see something. You know what I like. So
yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of dry powder in Panama. There's still a lot of guys that are very well capitalized that have been doing just fine during the pandemic. I've got a neighbor who works for a credit corp who I understand is sort of one of the pioneers in the banking industry as far as offering online banking platform for businesses. In other words, like e-commerce businesses. They're sort of the guys in Panama right now. They're ahead of Banco General. They're ahead of Multibank. They're ahead of BAC. As far as me being a Novi or a Zona Libre that wants to create an online store and be able to transact there. So those guys are doing just fine, thank you. And they've got cash to jump on opportunities. So okay, let's get to another question here. Matthew, thanks, pal. Banks. So Gilberto, I mean, are you seeing a lot of banks foreclose yet? Have you been involved in foreclosures, maybe representing a client?
Okay, so right now, I don't see any of the banks foreclosing at the moment.
Right.
You have to keep in mind that all banks approved by the Superintendency of Banking here in Panama have to have certain levels of liquidity and reserves. So it's not that easy for a bank to just go, disappear from one day to the next and file the equivalent of Chapter 11. There's different ways of doing these things, and there's a specific, I like to call it the Chapter 11 law, just because it makes sense to people from the States. So the process is pretty clear. It's a modern law. It was, I think it's only 3 years old or so. But I don't see that happening. What I do see happening, and we were already starting to see it happen before the pandemic. So now more than ever, look towards 2021 being one of those years when the bigger banks are buying off some of the medium and smaller sized banks.
More consolidating, sure. Yeah.
Which is good for everyone, actually.
Okay, yeah, it could be. So, all right. Actually, and I think Matthew was more referring to foreclosing on properties, like a bank that has a mortgage that is, basically, I don't even remember the Spanish word for that. Reposeer.
Reposeídos y remates judiciales. Sí.
Ese mismo.
Well, it's going to happen. Some people are just going to give their properties to the bank, say, what, I can't pay for it, I'm out, which is not going to be good. It's not going to be good for the real estate market. I mean, it's going to be good for investors and people who want to buy cheap. But at the other end, this is not the bank's main business. They don't like taking over properties. So, that's going to be interesting, but it's going to happen. I do see it happening. Remember also, the government and the Superintendency of Banking, including all of the banks, the Banking Association, they approved the moratorium for the payment of mortgages.
Sure.
So people have an air to breathe until the end of December. So some people who applied to the moratorium, who either got suspended from their jobs or had a drastic reduction of their paychecks, they could have applied for that moratorium, and they're not paying mortgages until December 31st of this year. And there is rumors that that might be even extended, or not necessarily for everyone. It could be on a case by case basis. So that depends. But the banks, the good thing is the banks have shown the will to deal with people, and they understand the situation. So everyone is being sympathetic to everyone else and being flexible to help people comply with their obligations.
You know, that's a nice sort of segue into my observation or question. Love to hear from you as a well-traveled Panamanian, born and raised in Panama, educated all over the world. Dude, we've been in lockdown. Some people have not had any income for the last 6 months or 5 months. It's March, right? Going on 6 months now.
Yeah.
Panamanian government has addressed and given these Vale Panamas, which are like the government bonuses. But let me ask you, why have we not had rioting and protest on the street in Panama? How has that not happened?
You know,
I'm so happy it hasn't. Go ahead.
That's a great question. That's a great question. And, you know, other than some of the stuff that I've seen this week, I don't know if you've been following, but we saw like a robbery yesterday or the day before. I heard from a client that there was a robbery to one of his stores. That was 2 weeks ago. And it's inevitable. All over the world, it's going to happen. People get hungry.
Sure.
They don't have a means. They're going to they find that the easiest way to getting what they need. But all in all, I mean, yes, we've done an incredible job. I think obviously the vales from the government helps. The bonuses they've been giving out to people has helped. There's been criticism that maybe they haven't done the best way possible, but you can understand, you know, this can't be easy for anyone. It's not easy for us. It's not easy for the government either to deal with this pandemic. They could have never expected it, you know? So, but on the other hand, you've had tons of companies, like private sector, have been paying their employees, even if it's 50% of their salary, just for them to be able to continue to live and support their families. You have other companies that have been able to, well, I can't pay you your salary, so I'll send you home, but I'll be sending you a food bag every week or every month. So I'll send you, and I've been involved. I'm on a board of directors of a company that did that for 400 employees. And we did that for 2 months. We were able to supply and get donations from other members, and it's beautiful. The Panamanians have always been able to be very generous. I mean, you've seen it with the teletones every year. Always helping. Panamanians are really helpful.
Step up. I mean, it's beautiful. You know, like exactly what you're saying. Whether it's employers, whether it's private industry helping out, you know, colleagues in the industry.
And one of the things that really shows that is in the last couple of weeks, there's a new movement in Panama. It's called Todo Panama. You'll probably see some hashtags if you haven't already, and you have Recupera Panama as well. And this is the private sector, many companies from the private sector, members of the Cámara de Comercio of Panama, and then you've got tons of nonprofits. So I'll talk to you about this morning, which was a beautiful experience. So this morning, in many of the metro stations across the city, a lot of these nonprofits, I'm a member of Abusa Shriners. So we were assigned today to be giving out face shields at the Gran Estación station, which is in San Miguelito.
On the metro.
And we were there, and there were, yes, in the metro, there was the Kiwanis, you have the 2030, you've got Jesus Luz de Oportunidades, I mean, La Cámara de Comercio, all of these, and the private companies that belong to the Cámara de Comercio, and just tons of volunteers. We were there since 6 o'clock in the morning, giving out the face shields, and just a ton of people working together to provide these shields to people to wear, to be able to protect themselves. And the amount of people, the amount of traffic, I was so impressed. I mean, people are going to work, man. I mean, this country, we're going to bounce back like we always do.
I tell you what,
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's beautiful. First of all, congrats on doing that. So great to hear that there was a lot of other people doing it. And man, how old were you during the invasion?
I was 9 years old.
9 years old. Okay. So, curious, here's what I heard. I heard that obviously pre-invasion and say a month or two following the invasion, things were a little tight. You know, people were like having to use barter systems and it was hard to get cash and like it was crazy. But then after, like 3 months after, it's like somebody flipped on a light switch and it just took off like it never has before.
Yeah, and it's going to happen again. You can see it already. I mean, these movements, this is the type of thing that it gives you the confidence that I can look at my wife in the eye and I'm going to and tell her, you know, we're going to be good. Everything's going to be fine. The private sector here, I mean, we're animals. I mean, everybody works here. And the thing about Panama, which is why we've become so famous and some people don't like us and they want to do the Panama Papers and this and that. We're competitive and we're creative. We like innovation. We create different things. And that's why we're leaders in all of these other things. You know, we're the biggest flag registry in the world for ships. You know, we were one of the biggest company registries in the world. I mean, we are one of the best, the second biggest financial sector in Latin America. I mean, this is what we do. And we're going to come together again. And the government.
There's only 4 million of us, 4.5. And it doesn't take that long. Like things happen here. You know, it's 4.5 million is like a city. It's like a little pueblo in China. It's like a, you know, decent sized city in the US. But for a whole country, we can be agile, mobile, react quickly.
And the usual things we've always had in our favor. The geographic position, you know, we're a great logistics hub. You know, we've got Copa that's starting to fly again. And the government, you know, they like to involve the private sector, and the private sector is always providing new ideas, and the government helps us out, and they're going to do it again. And there's going to be some interesting incentives that are going to be coming along that are going to help this jump start that's going to be coming.
Yeah, what are you hearing as far as incentives? And then we'll get to Lee's question. You know, what's the bonchinche on either? I've heard big immigration changes might be announced next week as far as new residency opportunities, you know, fiscal stimulus, all that good stuff. What are you hearing, buddy?
Well, you know, along those lines, that kind of stuff. You know, there's going to be tax incentives. You know, last month was approved the entrepreneurship company law. So things like that are going to be done. There's going to be, I think one of the things that people like the most is the tax incentives. Obviously, there's certain areas that I think they're going to be producing, or they're going to be coming out with new legislation that will incentivize certain sectors or investments in certain sectors. So that should be coming along. And I did hear some things about immigration. So that could be interesting. I know they've been working on something for a little bit now on a new product. So I can't give you much information because I'm not a government official. I don't know, and I don't want to say things that aren't true. But I understand. And in my view,
you already know what's going to happen.
No, and in my view, I think they're going to be good things for the country. It's going to be good for everyone. So it's going to be very interesting. I think the government's going to do their part, and the private sector is going to continue to do their part. So people can, and like I said, we still have tons of interest. One of the things I wanted to tell you, I've seen continued interest from local companies that are already established here. They're not going to leave. They're looking to stay. I've seen some of those same local companies, they want to expand. So that's great.
Yep.
All right. That
What
provides,
industry?
yeah, it's a solid, it's the solid base that everyone wants to look for. And we've still had continued contact from new companies, global companies that want to come to Panama, set up here. We've seen that some licenses were approved last month. I think there were 2 or 3 that were approved, different companies.
Yeah.
So that's great. That just shows you, I mean, that's proof that people are still interested in coming here. I can tell you that I've had.
Can I interrupt? Sorry. Talking about these industries, both that want to expand locally and enter the market, any trends you're seeing as far as, manufacturers or distributors or some sort of new product or service that we don't have yet?
Absolutely.
Like, what's the trend there?
So I can tell you personally, I've seen companies in the financial sector. We're dealing with people in the agricultural sector.
Okay.
We're dealing with manufacturing, something with
Mira.
manufacturing, yes. Tourism, and
Okay.
and also some spike in companies that are regional, not necessarily global, but regional companies that still want to put their foot in Panama. So, all in all, very positive, very positive.
Yeah, no, and if you guys are just joining us, Gilberto Arosemena with Pat Moreno as FOT, partner with the firm, is on the inside. I mean, not just with the government, but with sort of he is the for a lot of big players, his firm is sort of the first point of contact for Panama. They've got a lot of relationships with governments, banks, different institutions. So, his client base is a lot of Fortune, I don't want to say 500, but big companies in Panama, big corporations. Obviously his department, which is real estate, handles both residential real estate, immigration, commercial real estate, but he sees a lot of this stuff before it happens, before it hits the streets. So it's awesome to get your perspective on this. Yeah. All right. What other questions that I have? So, I mean, golly. Okay. Let's go. Lee, let's get to your question. Travel, hospitality. I mean, Tokumen, Copa's got a nice little monopoly right now. I think their monopoly is going to end like next month or something, end of September, mid-October on the new the other airlines being able to come back in. What's the story? What are you seeing? What are you thinking, Gilberto?
Yeah, I think some of the companies are already looking to start coming back into Panama, flying into Panama. So I think it's just a matter of weeks before you see some of the other airlines coming in and out. And that's going to be great. That's going to be great. So I think also the restrictions for only the entrance of residents and Panamanians, that's going to change. Well, you already mentioned it in the near future. So I think that by the end of October, beginning of November, everything will be back to normal into air travel in and out of Panama.
Yeah. I guess the question, the $1 million question is, how quickly are we going to keep back to like the real normal, like January of last year kind of thing? I mean, God, I have a speculation, or I guess we could call it a hope, that people are so dying to get the heck out of where they are right now, both Panamanians internally going to Chiriquí or Chiricanos coming to have a drink in the city, that I think it's going to be a good January. Like, I really do.
I think so too. I think, well, I can't wait to get out of the city. I'm going to take my girls and I'm going to go somewhere. I'd love to go to Chiriquí or go to the beach. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but you're going to see a lot of local tourism. And you're also going to see, the good thing about January is it starts winter in North America and Europe again. So
yeah, buddy.
These people are going to want to come down, I hope. They're not going to be able to come in carnival. I don't think we're going to have that much of a carnival unless everyone's got the vaccine already. But hopefully, but but I think people will be able to come down and rent a place, and this is a great place to stay. So restaurants will be open, so you will have movement, and look at a lot of people renting houses on the countryside, whether it's at the beach or in the mountains, just to get out for a while.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's I share your optimism, buddy. So we got Mitchell here. I assume you're here in Panama, Mitchell. Your tourist visa ran out. I think they're being kind of lenient on that, right? Like, what are you hearing?
Yeah. So the government approved an extension to affording people with an expired visa, tourist visa, to stay in the country until the end of October. So you've got until Halloween to stay in for now. I don't know whether that's going to be extended or not. I would assume that it might be extended maybe towards to the end of the year, because it'll also provide people a chance to stay in and spend some more money while they're here in the country. That would make sense to me, but it's not up to me to make that decision. So for now, it's until the 31st of October. Hopefully it will change, but don't worry, Mitchell, I'll take care of you. We'll regularize your visa situation.
Voila. There you go. Well, guys, Gilberto, I know you're busy and really appreciate your insight. It's been great to catch up with you. Thank you as always for your kind service that you do. And so we'll go ahead and sign out. Enjoy the rest of your day, my friend, and hasta pronto, que nos vemos en la calle.
Thank you very much, Kent, and everyone to tune in, and I'm available for questions whenever you want. It's been a pleasure. It's a treat.
Yes. All right,
Stay safe,
Gilberto. Ciao, buddy.
Bye-bye.